So, welcome to Northern Powerhouses, our business success stories series of interviews. We'll discuss with local business leaders their backgrounds, their successes, their challenges, and what's really driving them forwards. And this morning, I'm delighted to have with us Mark Hodgson, who's Managing Director at Tremark Associates. So, Mark, thank you so much for spending some time with us. And if you'd like to introduce yourself, your business, what you do, how you help people, that would be wonderful.
Yeah, good morning, Chris. My name's Mark Hodgson. As you said, I run a business called Tremark Associates. People would probably term us as private investigators. I
Brilliant.
would say professional investigators. And we generally help law firms, financial businesses, lenders, insolvency practitioners, companies, and some individuals with lots of inquiries that they may have. But we do try to focus on commercial investigations, and we have dealt with private individuals and got involved with, the exciting things like matrimonial stuff, but
Yeah.
it can be a little bit messy. There's some great stories, but they tend to take up more time and are not commercially as rewarding as I'd like them to be.
No, that makes sense. So in the commercial world, then we have we will have quite a lot of business people watching this.
Mm.
What sort of things would you help a company or a business with?
Um, well, certainly the legal industry is our biggest referrer of work, and
Yeah,
for those type of people, we are serving court documents on people. We are finding where people are now living. We are looking at what assets they may have, maybe looking into their background, working out whether it's economical to pursue legal action against
yeah,
them. But obviously, we can get into surveillance and trying to find out whether somebody's committing fraud, whether somebody's stealing business ideas. We often watch employees or even co-directors where somebody thinks that
yeah.
somebody's about to set up in competition with them. So people come to us with a whole host of worries, I guess,
Yes,
and we try and put a plan together to work out how we can assist them.
yeah,
Over the past 30 years, we've built up a fantastic network of subcontractors and consultants with an array of expertise. So it could be, we had one recently, which was to debug an office.
Oh,
They thought
right.
they were being bugged, and we managed to get some trusted people in there in with that. And then around the globe as well, we've got some fantastic people around the world in different jurisdictions that know exactly what's legal there and what can be
Yeah.
done, and can help us out when our clients have a problem.
Wow, it must be very, very interesting work. I'm sure quite and very, very varied. I would,
Yes,
would.
every day I don't know what I'm going to be talking about.
Brilliant. Well, Mark, maybe if we could start by looking back a little bit and you could tell us a little
Mm.
bit more about your background, how you got into business and why this particular one for you.
Well, I left school. I didn't really know what I wanted to do when I left school, and I fell into working into a solicitor's office as an
Yeah,
office junior.
yeah,
Making the cups of tea, going to the sandwich shop every day, and working on the solicitors. I started doing a little bit of the debt collection, the lower end stuff. I then went to work um, at DLA, which were Div Lupton then in Leeds, into their debt recovery department. And then from there, I went to Dun& Bradstreet, who did a lot of debt recovery, business to business debt recovery.
yeah.
And it was there really that I became aware that issuing legal proceedings against everybody was not sometimes the right thing to do.
Yeah.
Maybe that person didn't have the money, or they weren't living where the client thought they were. So I got into more of the investigation side. And then I was made redundant. Um, and I lived uh, above a pub in Headingley with my family, and I went home being made redundant. I was gobsmacked, and my dad saying to me, "Pick up the phone and ring your clients and tell them that you've set up a business on your own." And I think I was only 24, 25, and I did it.
Wow.
I set up Tremark. Obviously the mark comes from my name. The tree is my dad. It's Trevor.
Right.
And I set up a business primarily as a debt recovery company to start,
Yeah.
but very quickly realized that the investigation stuff around debt collection, there was a market for it. And I knew a lot of people in the debt collection industry because of my history. So I was able to sort of reach out to those people and say, look, I can help you with this.
Brilliant.
pre-sue inquiry or whatever. And then a lot of the law firms, or one particular law firm that I was using to do my legal work,
Yeah,
they were asking me, I was doing my own process serving trace inquiries, and they really liked my reports, and they reached out to me and said, could you do these reports for our other debt recovery clients? And we did, and I soon realized that was more commercially advantageous, let's
yeah,
say. The debt recovery I was doing a no collect no fee, so you could spend ages working a file and not get
yeah.
paid, and then you didn't earn anything. And to be honest, sometimes I collected debt and the client wasn't happy because I collected it too quickly and they didn't want to pay the bill. So that made me think maybe I need to be looking at the
Yes.
investigation market more.
Yeah, doing it too well, from what you said.
Well, people don't like, do they? I charge a commission, and if I collected the debt within 24 hours and it had been outstanding for a year, they may not want to pay my 10% or whatever it was I was charging. They thought I'd earned too much money for 24 hours work.
Well, funnily enough, you may know this story, but there's quite an interesting story about, and I get this with some of the work I do with clients, that it's not about time, it's about knowledge and
Yeah,
capability and expertise. And that there's a story about the guy that owns a factory, and it's this big machine that produces all these widgets and stuff, and it breaks down. And so they call the guy, and they come to fix it, and he spends about 20 minutes just looking through it, and then gets into his little bag and a little hammer and goes dig, and it all
exactly.
starts whirring again and starts searching. And the guy says, "That's amazing." He says, "Send me your bill. I'll pay it as soon as it arrives." And the bill comes the following morning for £10,000. He's straight on the phone and says, "How how
Yeah,
how can you possibly? I want it itemized. You need to itemize the bill for me because you the bill came back straight away. So and it basically said, use of hammer to hit machine, £5. Knowing where to hit it, £9,995."
exactly.
It's an interesting.
Exactly that.
It's yeah. I mean, it's just you're doing your job well, and that's the point, isn't it? It should be.
Yeah.
So
So,
yeah, go
yes,
on.
I was just going to say, so yeah, we started adapted and using more investigations type
Yeah,
stuff, and that's where we're at.
amazing. And I mean, when you were talking like that, I wondered if how do you learn to do that? How do you learn to do investigations? I mean, I suppose it might sound an obvious question, but how do you learn those skills?
Well, I'd been using private investigators or inquiry agents in the past, and I'd spent a short amount of time actually setting up a debt collection unit for a private investigation company. So I got to know some of the people in there, and obviously got to see some of the techniques that they had been using,
Yeah,
and took those on board myself. And then a lot of it really was just being inquisitive, just having an inquisitive
yeah,
mind, and
yeah,
and going and asking questions out in the field. But I joined an association quite early, the Association of British Investigators, and there were some really good people in there, some really good
yeah,
people that were happy to share their knowledge. And if
yeah.
I had a question, I could ask a question, and generally somebody would come back and would give me advice or a bit of guidance, and it worked well.
Brilliant. So looking back over as you've grown the business over time, what some of the biggest issues and challenges have you had to overcome, Mark?
Um, in the business, I've got to be honest, I don't have things that really, we talked earlier about COVID. COVID was a big one for everybody that we
Yeah.
had to overcome.
Yes.
Now, there's certain things I'm able to put things in perspective. I've had a couple of things going in my private life over the years, that really make you put things into perspective.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, a death of a son. I had a,
Oh dear.
a marriage break up with a girl that I loved, and then I was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer.
Oh
So
my goodness.
those things really help you put things into perspective. So
Yes.
I do sort of have a bit of a skill to be able to just like, okay, just sit back. What's the worst that's going to happen here? Um, let's try and deal with the situation. Um, but I guess the biggest challenge for me was when I was ill, not knowing whether I was going to recover
Yeah.
and what was going to happen to my business. Um,
Yes.
I didn't know whether I was going to survive that situation. I didn't know what would happen for my children,
Yeah,
and how my business could potentially create an income for them if I didn't survive or
yeah,
didn't find a sale for the business. So I really had to look at how the business could run without me there and continue to make a profit. So that was a big challenge, to build a business leadership team, if you like, within my business.
yes,
I identified 5 individuals in my business that I thought potentially had the capability of doing more.
brilliant.
And we did that. And that was, I didn't die, but I been able to step back from the business a
Yeah,
bit, step out of operations completely. I never went back into the business from an operations point of
yes,
view. And that has given me more time to think, to implement ideas, and that's been really, really important.
really, that's fascinating. A lot of people. I was talking to a client this morning that that a lot of people don't manage to break through that process of starting to create something that works without you. In fact, we'll probably talk a little bit about that later on.
Mm.
And I guess necessity caused that for you, which was the
Yeah,
thing.
yeah, exactly. I mean, I knew, and I was already trying to separate myself from the business as an exit plan,
Yeah,
to build a team, to be able to maybe sell the business, or so nobody was people were buying me, were buying my business. Um, so I already knew that, but when you've got a choice or something like that,
yes,
you have to act. I had to act. I'm only a pretty small business. I've got 20, just over 20 employees.
well done.
Um, but they were reliant on me being able to ensure that business kept going forward.
Yeah,
And I probably wouldn't have made that decision that quickly
yeah,
and
yeah.
taken those actions that quickly. I mean, some of them were a bit wacky, but I was on morphine and fentanyl and other substances at the time.
I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure that's a business strategy we should be recommending. But
No,
but
no.
what are some of the biggest things you've learned about successfully growing a business? I mean, 20 people is quite significant, but a lot of people watching this would be interested to know how you've got to 20.
Um, my business grew very organically, very slowly over time. So a lot of recommendations to start,
Yeah,
word of mouth. I've had to adapt as to how I grew the business. I mean, one of the greatest pieces of advice I ever got was from my bank manager, who told me to go in a particular bar in Leeds on a Thursday evening, because that's where all the lawyers and insolvency practitioners went. So
brilliant.
I had some fantastic Thursday nights on Greek Street for
Yeah,
most of the 90s, that tripled my business in size just
brilliant.
through meeting people and talking to people and building trust. People that trusted you would
Yes.
introduce you to other people, and that was fantastic. But then, of course, that all changed during COVID, and the whole way of marketing changed and the way that we meet. Um, things like talking on Zoom and Teams, uh, internet marketing,
Yeah.
Google, all those type of things have changed. So adapting has been really important. Um, Certainly since I was ill, having the time to think
Yeah.
and focus and contemplate things, I realize is so important. And
Yes.
that's really challenging for business owners to
Yes.
step away from operations. Sometimes you're a little bit afraid of letting go.
Yeah.
Um, I think I was quite good at delegating and letting go of certain aspects, but you need to step away and be able to look at things sometimes.
it, it's a really interesting concept. So I often say to people that business owners should have more than enough time to run and think about the business, and not just enough, or the sitting back, however you do it, feet on the desk and leaning back and just thinking is it's a valuable part. In fact, it's probably the most important part of what we do. because that's where we see the opportunity and we see the opportunities ahead, the challenges we might be facing, and do something about them.
Yeah, I think I have an advantage as well in that, I started my business working on my own from a spare room above my dad's pub, and I've done everything. I have done absolutely everything in my business. So when I'm thinking about members of my team or what we need to do, I sort of know if they're doing it for the first time, maybe perhaps how they might feel. And I try to bring that into my thought processes when I'm thinking about new ideas, about how that would fit into my team, who the individuals in my team that potentially can work with that particular problem or that area that we want to expand into.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And I think you're aware we're a business coaching organisation. I'm keen to know who the best coaches you've worked with, whether that's business, sport, or life in general. Who's had the biggest impact on you?
Well, I set my own business up when I was 25. So I didn't have many bosses, if I'm honest,
Yep,
before I set my business up. However, I grew up in a pub, the busy pub in Headingley in Leeds, and I got to meet lots of fantastic people, business people,
yep,
um, and I listened to a lot of those people that I identified and took bits from them. I also, I played a lot of football. I
yep,
met some fantastic people through football that ran
yep,
their own businesses.
yep.
I was a football coach. I went up to A license sort of level.
Right.
Uh, Managed a semi-professional women's team. Um, and did my coaching badges and met some great people through football coaching. And what football coaching taught me was to be confident in the message that you're trying to get across.
Yep,
You can't stand on a football pitch in front of some men and be a little bit timid. You've got to be
yep,
really assertive. Um, and then, members of my family, my granddad was a very successful businessman. He came from a mining background, but was an engineer. He won the Queen's Award for Export, and he travelled the world a lot. And he was a very successful businessman. And he would give me little bits of advice, just silly little things. I was quite nervous as a young man growing up, and I remember going for an interview when I was about, I don't know, 16, 17, and me being really nervous, and my granddad saying to me, they're all people, son.
yep,
They all go to the toilet the same as me and you.
yep,
Just think about that and have a friendly smile. But people are people, and that was really, really good advice. And sometimes I can be um, with I think I mix well with a variety of people, whatever the background is.
yep. I,
So
I,
maybe that came from my granddad, or maybe it just came back from living in a pub where you've got so many different
yes,
characters.
yeah, yeah,
Whether it be the taproom crowd who were sort of the locals, or the students that were in the lounge bar, and that
yep.
that that student environment.
Absolutely. Which pub was it?
The Three Horseshoes in Headingley.
Oh, the Three Horses.
Um,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Brilliant.
Yeah, which in the 90s when I was, 80s, 90s when I was growing up was a really great place to grow up for a young man,
Yes,
lots of sports because it was across the road from the Carnegie College. So we've got
yes, of
lots of
course.
sports teams in there, lots of coaches that worked at Carnegie would drink in the pub that became regulars,
Yep.
some good sportsmen, and as a 17, 18-year-old young man, lots of young ladies in the pub as well.
Can't be bad. Can't be
Yeah.
bad. And whether it's for any of those people you mentioned, have you or any other source, have you picked up any favourite quotes or sayings you catch yourself using on a regular basis?
Yeah, there's one I use with my staff quite a lot when they come to me with an issue, which is it sounds like you're trying to make your problem my problem. And people I have learned people will come to you and just want to steal your time sometimes.
Yes.
Um, and again, taking a step from the business has made me realize they can deal with problems.
Yeah.
They just need to have the confidence to deal with the problem. So yeah, it sounds like you're trying to make your problem my problem is one.
Like it.
People deal with people. I think I might have said something similar already in the
Yes.
call. Trying to drum down, get on the phone, speak to them. It's a person,
Yep.
find out what they understand, what the problem is. And if people like you, they will deal with you.
Yeah.
They'll want to deal with you. They want to come back to you and spend a bit of time. Another one I stole from a mate of mine, which was amazing things happen to nice people.
Yeah.
I've been invited on some fantastic dinners and had some fantastic experiences that I probably wouldn't have got the invite if I'd not been a nice bloke, I think.
Yep.
And I try and use that with my kids. You've heard it's important to be nice, but it's more important, sorry, it's nice to be important, but it's more important to be nice.
Be nice.
And try and drum that through all the time.
It's a really interesting thing, and unfortunately, I think in business there there's a very, very unfair reputation that somehow most business people have to be sort of cutthroat and ruthless, and it's just the opposite, in my opinion. The most successful people, most of the most successful people, are really good guys, and
Well, one thing I've learned at the time is when I'm in a big meeting, the nicest person in the room is normally the most intelligent.
yeah, and often willing to give time, give
Yeah, and
advice.
share.
If you're interested, we'll come on to books in a second. There's a book I was recommended by a sports coach by coincidence, but it's very much about work environments as much as anything else, and it's called the Happiness Advantage, and it talks about and it's a sort of it basically talks about the science behind happy environments create more productive people. So
Yeah,
it's not just a nice thing to have a happy environment. It's actually a profitable and productive environment, and they've got a lot of case studies and lots of metrics that prove it, which I think
yeah,
is really, really fascinating.
yeah.
And speaking of books, any favorite books or podcasts you can recommend?
Well, yeah, there's a book that I read called How to Be a Productivity Ninja. Okay.
Nice.
And one of my problems was I'd have all these inputs coming in, emails. My inbox was, 300 emails in there, and I'd have ideas. And they might be in my head, they might be written down, but I had ideas also. And this book really helped me understand how to deal with those,
Yeah,
how to deal with them efficiently and quickly. And the book's it'd be a few years old now. So some of the technology it talks about might be a little bit out of date, but the theory about how to deal with your inputs, how to manage your ideas, how to create time for yourself
brilliant.
really hit home with me. And that's one that as part of their appraisal last year, all my employees were given that task to take time out. Now I listen to it as an audio book, so I'd take the dog for a walk and I'd stick it
Yeah,
on and listen to half an hour or so every day. And it's only about 9 hours long, I think. So
brilliant. So that's
yeah,
how to be a productivity ninja.
yeah, and it's by Graham Alcott, but I'm just looking now. It's on Amazon. I think it's available for about £7 or something, but
Perfect.
you can get it as an audio book as well, which is what I did.
Thank you. I'll look into that myself, but that I think that's a
Yeah.
great recommendation. And just sticking on the learning front for a little bit longer, what would you say you've learned about yourself throughout your journey so far, Mark?
I'm resilient, very resilient, hardworking, and I'm now confident. That bit took about 45 years to get there. Um, Recently, somebody, I was at a conference in Portugal, and the Norwegian guy spoke to me for about, I don't know, 7 or 8 minutes, and he said, you have ADHD, you have a superpower. And when, and I don't know, but I definitely hyper focus on stuff, much to the
Yeah.
annoyance of those close to me, and I don't stop until I feel that I've got the situation under control. But I use those to my advantage, I think, with my business.
Yes. As you say, it's a superpower of that ability to focus, isn't it? And really just dive in
Yeah,
and
when I need to focus, I'm quite good at that.
brilliant.
But yeah, I think they're the main ones.
And going back to something we talked about a little bit earlier, actually, and obviously you've experienced this yourself. But we have a definition of a true business and action coach. which is a commercial, profitable enterprise that works without its owners. And I guess that will be something that you'd agree with as a principle from what you said earlier.
Yeah, I said I was forced into a situation,
Yes.
but I can tell you now, since I stepped back from the business, um, and I get time to think, and I can step in and I can mentor my leadership team. I try to let them make decisions. I try to guide them if I think the decision is they're making a mistake.
Yep.
Um, but mistakes are good.
Yes.
Um, try and make people make decisions. That's something I've always been very good at.
Yep.
I employed an EA a few years ago, and I got a very close friend of mine who knew me to help me interview them, and also somebody that was a very experienced EA. And I was a bit shocked when they said that my biggest strength was that I make decisions very, very quickly, and then followed that up with my biggest weakness was I make decisions very, very quickly.
Ah, interesting. Yeah, yeah.
But I think making decisions is fundamental. You've got to
Yep.
you've got to make decisions quickly. You've got to adapt quickly. So I try and get that into my team. Um,
I, I remember our founder telling me many years ago, he's a very, very successful guy. And he said to me, he said, Chris, I believe I'm as successful as I am because I've made more mistakes than anybody else I know.
yeah.
Not despite it, but it was that ability to make a decision, take action, and find out the outcome, and then go again. Whereas I think the challenge many people have is the fear of the mistake, the fear of failure holds us back from making decisions and taking actions.
Yes. Yes. And what's the worst that can happen?
Yeah,
That you make a mistake. What
yeah,
is the worst thing that is going to happen? Unless there's going to be somebody badly hurt,
yeah,
everything can be dealt with.
yes,
And even when over the years, when a client has maybe been upset or that thinks that they've got a problem, normally it's because the communication is not being right. So okay, next time we need to communicate this situation better, or we
yeah,
need to manage expectations better. But I can honestly say that anytime a client has come to me with a problem because they perceive there's been a mistake or there's a lack of service, we have come out better out of that situation, that relationship with the
yes.
client, because
Brilliant.
it gave us an opportunity to discuss it with them, and for us both to get a better understanding of what actually
Yes.
happened or how we can rectify the situation. And I would say 95% of the time we've been able to rectify whatever the problem was, and we've learned from it, and the clients learned from it.
Yeah, I absolutely second that. My experience of my business life is I built some of the best relationships through dealing with problems with clients
Yeah.
that we created or were responsible for than just everything works well sort of thing and not making a mistake. And it's I think it's how we deal with them, and it's that commitment, isn't it, to show that you really do care can take us closer to clients.
Yes, definitely 100%. 100%.
So, looking forward a bit then, Mark, what does the future look like for you guys? And what challenges do you think you might face, if any?
Um, we're still trying to grow the business. I think probably one of my strategies might be for the employees to take over the business at some point in the future, unless somebody comes along with a huge checkbook. Um, so we're still trying to market. We're trying to grow into more lucrative types of work, more
Yep,
international work. Um, so that's a challenge. Um, the biggest challenge for me is probably exiting the business. Not because financially I need that. I'm in a fairly comfortable position right now, but I just love my job. I love what I'm
yep,
doing right
yeah,
now. It's taken me 30 odd years to get here. But that could be my main challenge is knowing when I should step away
Yes.
completely. But I'm enjoying trying to work with the industry as a whole and
Yeah.
trying to professionalize our industry. Our industry is not regulated.
Yeah.
So there are one or two cowboys, let's say, out there
Yeah.
offering illegal services that
Yeah.
I'd like to help deal with that and give our industry a better reputation. So yeah, um,
Brilliant.
knowing when to stop. I'm traveling a lot now. You know, I made a promise to myself that if I did get better, I was going to go out there
Yes.
and see the world. So with
Brilliant.
technology, I can work anywhere. I just spent 3 months in Cape Town,
Oh,
spent a
wow.
couple of months in Spain. I'm able to work from anywhere, so
Brilliant.
I'll keep going as long as I can, I think.
Brilliant. And if you and just looking back, if you were to start the business again, is there anything significant you do differently, do you think?
Yeah, not be a busy fool.
Mm.
Um, I went through a period of worrying, I can't put that fee up because the client might leave me or whatever. And yeah, don't be a busy fool. I had lots and lots of work. I had
Yeah.
work coming out of my ears, but I wasn't charging enough for it.
Yes.
And actually, if I probably doubled my fee and got half the work, have less grey hairs now.
I would say to people, yeah, including in groups, I sort of say, if this is the value of your product or service, where's your price? And most people are below the value. It's just it is a standard thing, and I just go, well, look, all of that is pure profit. It's absolute pure profit. Um,
Yeah,
if we devalue, then we're not doing ourselves or even our customers a service, because they need to value what we do to
yeah,
continue to want to work with us, if that makes sense.
yeah. It's a challenge for a young person or somebody starting their own business. If you're in
Yes,
the service industry, is
of
you're trying
course.
to be competitive.
Yeah,
To start with, and to some extent, you need to do that when you start a business.
yeah,
You need to
yes.
build your reputation. But at some point you've got to be confident enough to go, okay, I'm going to start charging a bit more.
It's one of those mindset changes, isn't it? You really bang on. You probably have the same thing. I remember when I started it, we used to describe the perfect client as anyone with a pulse and a checkbook, and it's like you take anybody, because when you're starting a business, that's what you're going to do. But again, it's the mindset change of starting to value what we do,
Yeah,
to a point where we would say no to people that wanted something below the value of what we could offer. Difficult one, but once you break through, you realise that people do
yeah,
value us.
and also work with people that you want to work with.
Yeah, absolutely.
Uh, if you've got somebody that's wanting you to do something for them and you don't really like them, or you get a feeling, just say no. It's easy done. And the only other advice I would you know think about if I started my business again um, would be to mm, co- meet as many professionals in my industry as possible and meet as many experts and people with specialities as soon as possible
Yeah,
and get those people on board as subcontractors or consultants because they are the people that are going to make you look really good.
yeah, brilliant, brilliant. Very, very sound advice. And final question: what would be the best advice you could give an 18-year-old you if you could go back in time and do that, Mark?
Work hard. Um, Good question. It probably would have been if it was 18-year-old me, stop chasing the barmaids in my dad's pub. Um, Work hard, yeah. Um, Work hard and trust the hard work that you're putting in. Making mistakes is all right.
Yes,
I would definitely have told myself making mistakes is okay. Treat every mistake as or a knockback
yes.
an opportunity to learn and just react to your mistakes when they happen. Meet lots of new people, meet as many people as you can, and always be nice. It's important.
Always be nice. Always
Yeah,
be nice.
if you do those things, it's going to work out okay. I think it's going to be just fine.
Love it, and it clearly has. But Mark, thank you so much for your time today. It's been really fascinating to talk to you and really educational. And for anyone that is watching and would like to get in touch with you or Tremark Associates, what's the best way of doing that?
Well, our website is www.tremark.co.uk, which is
Yeah,
Tremark.
yeah,
You can find our contact details on the website, and even my phone number's on there. Just give me a call.
brilliant. Well, it'd be great to swing by another 6, 12 months, just see what the next steps are in this journey. But for now, thank you so much for your time.
Cheers, Chris. Thank you.
Thank you.